Welcome back to the show.
Let's go. I'm excited. What are we talking about today?
I want to talk about goal setting. Actually, I was working with a client on this earlier this morning.
Awesome.
Yeah. A college student who was, she's trying to submit applications for scholarships. Mm-hmm. And I said, so what's your goal? Mm-hmm. How many, if you did it and we're at the end of the time frame to do the scholarship applications, how many would you have done? She's like, ooh. So many times with goals, we think I'm just trying to do whatever. And we don't create a specific, something measurable, something time-bound. We've all heard about SMART goals. And so we took that and we created.
Let's not assume that everybody's heard about SMART goals, but we'll go back. We'll come back to SMART goals.
We'll go back to it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So we took it. We created a larger goal, and then we looked at the time frame that she had to do it, and what she had going on over that period of time, and what was actually realistic for her. Mm-hmm. And we broke that into some micro goals, mm-hmm. some baby steps to get mm-hmm. there. And by the end of it, she was like, "Yeah, absolutely. I know exactly what I need to do next." So there's a lot of power in that. Just not saying that you're trying to do something. I said, I could try to research and learn about eating vegetables, and I could be trying to learn more and do it. But until I put a piece of broccoli in my mouth, then I'm not actually doing it. So I need to figure out, what am I doing and how much of it do I need to do to reach my goal? Mm-hmm. And I know that you have a framework that you've been practicing.
It's been evolving over a handful of years. I originally learned goal setting from Greg Amundsen. Remember Greg? Mm-hmm. Yeah. They call him the fire breather. He's one of the original CrossFit guys back when CrossFit was just in the very first gym, and he used to travel the world actually, go into all the CrossFit gyms and teaching goal setting. He was a coach of mine that I hired for, I was found a handful of years ago, maybe, 6 or 7 years ago. I hired for a full year. We did a lot of biblical type of stuff, but we talked about goal setting all the time. And two things that I picked up from him. There's always two things that I picked up from him that I thought were a wonderful way of kind of wrapping your mind around the power of goal setting. One was the first time we did a goal setting session, he challenged me because he was like, well, haven't you already done that? Or don't you know you can do that or whatever? And so he had this framework of saying, let's set a goal that's going to help you to become something that you're currently not. That there should be a gap between the version of you that can achieve that goal and who you currently are. That if you could have, you already would have. I'm like, interesting, right? Because that the growth is some of that motivating intrinsic factor behind it. So that's the first kind of principle of saying, like, let's acknowledge that we have to actually write down and plan out goal setting in a way that becomes actionable and measurable, and we can track it, and there can be some accountability around it, because most people, 5% of the world, only 5% of the world actually even writes down their goals.
That just blows my mind every time I hear that. That stat always comes out at New Year's.
Yeah, I just started up with a client, a round 2 with a client. I worked with this athlete a year ago, and now they're back again for round 2 at the same type of year. And I asked them, so what are your current goals? And I'm like, have you written them down? They're like, well, they're in my head. I'm like, yeah, they're just ideas. Mm-hmm. They're just ideas until you write them down. So that was the first piece, was like this gap between, and then I just actually accidentally verbalized the second, which was, if you don't make it actionable, you don't put pen to paper, you don't write it down and then post it, like, to where you have to revisit it in a way, because the idea it's fleeting. Like, thoughts are fleeting. You have a great idea one day and you have a goal, and I want to do X, Y, or Z, but you don't actually figure out how you're going to pursue that. How to track the progress, what's the process of going into that, then it's just an idea. So to actualize that, you have to first understand that there's a gap between who you currently are and who you are going to become when you execute the goal. And the second piece is that, we gotta put it on paper. We gotta make it measurable. We gotta take it from idea to action. Then it becomes lived. So the framework, and in sports psychology, there's different things that you've seen about, performance goal and progress goal and all those type of things. what I have really enjoyed language wise, because if I am setting a goal that's going to force me to grow, and I'm going to become a more adaptable, integrated, resilient version of myself on the other end, right? I'm going to build more confidence or whatever I'm looking for. I'm going to have a new opportunity out of life, that I'm pursuing something. So the first aspect is pursuit. I like to know not only what I'm pursuing externally, that the world can see, yes, you did do the thing or whatever that might be, but I'm also clear about the internal pursuit of who I'm exploring to become. And there, if you listen to our last podcast about limiting beliefs and things like that, the intrinsic value for me is if I go pursue the goal, it's going to potentially force me to let go of something internally that is not the truth, that has some sort of a limiting belief or a story or a narrative that's limiting my potential. So that's what I'm actually pursuing.
And we even talked about that. If you haven't listened to the last episode about limiting beliefs, it's the hidden reason why you're procrastinating. So
Yeah.
I love that, just recognizing, calling that forward and saying, by doing this, I'm going to be letting go of a limiting belief.
Yep. So that's the real, so there's, in the pursuit, there's an extrinsic, like objective goal, but there's the subjective internal motivator of your growth, healing, whatever the word you want to call it.
So in the scholarship application, that's
Right.
the external goal. I want to get the scholarship, but then there's something within that I'm worthy of getting the scholarship.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
And a little bit of neuroscience. It's super interesting to me how we are built as humans, that the extrinsic and the intrinsic motivating aspects of the brain, when we think about goal setting and kind of who we become in the process and all that pursuit aspect I'm talking about, those two parts of the brain don't cross paths. They don't interact with each other. So that becomes a very human willpower, intentional aspect of like going, we have to then go, this is what I want. This is who I'm going to become if I pursue that goal. And then the final little nuance, and I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole here, but the final nuance is the goal is just a vehicle for me to be put in a situation, in a container, a worthy challenge of sorts for me to grow. So even if I fall short of the pursuit of the external goal, the outcome, the objective, I still had to go through the progress and the process in that pursuit of reaching such goal. So I probably still grew in the way that I intended. So when I connect in my brain, the extrinsic and the intrinsic motivator, the objective, the goal, and how I'm going to grow, then somewhere along the lines, you realize like, oh, the real value here, the real gold was the fact that I grew. I evolved. I have a larger capacity now. I have a new level of awareness. I have a new perspective. I have a new image of myself, or I have let go of egoic constructs that have held me back, or past stories that are no longer relative.
So you're almost like you're looking at the end result of how you're feeling and what you've had to overcome to get there, in a way where you're actually calling that forth to the beginning of the goal setting process and orienting it there, where most people don't. If you're not consciously doing that process, you're only going to know all of that at the end.
Yeah.
And you go, oh yeah, this is really cool because this is who I became in the process. And these are the skills I developed and what I had to let go of and how I became this greater version of myself. But you're saying you're putting it together at the beginning because our brain doesn't naturally do that.
Yeah, maybe we could do another episode to unpack what you just said, because I could become a little bit confusing in this conversation. I think of just all the practices that we use to try to actualize that version of you that has already reached the goal. And that's now and later circuitry and all the things with it. But
so you said you have the pursuit.
Yep. So we know what we're pursuing, the external vehicle.
Yep.
And the internal growth. Then we need to know how are we going to measure growth, because most goals that are worthy of writing down can cause it either some overwhelm or lack of motivation, because another one of my athletes, different one that I was just speaking about, was struggling with motivation because their season is so far off. And so they like, like, how much really am I working towards my goal, when my season is still 2.5 months away?
Right.
I say, well, the moment that we then were clear about what is the pursuit, in his case, this is a high school football player who said, I want to be All-State. Awesome. Well, what are some things that are going to help you to progress that we can measure? That now back to that SMART goal. It's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, it's realistic, it's time bound. And even when I add an S at the beginning, it's small. So therefore, we can reach it in the next, let's say, 2 weeks. I like goals that about 2-week time frame, a month at the max, that I'm going to be able to get to this point in the next 2 weeks or a month. I can see it. It's right out there, right? It's very tangible. It's in the next 8, 10, 12, 15 days, whatever that might look like, right? And that's going to help to make sure that we are releasing dopamine. And dopamine is a motivational chemical to keep going towards the goal. And there's these stepping stones. So micro goals, or progress goals is what we call them. That's, those two things are interconnected, in my opinion. They're just stair steps that help you to reach the bigger goal. And if you do a really good job at noticing what the progress is, and you notice that growth, that it creates a momentum in that direction, and you find yourself kind of being like, oh, I reached the goal. And it's almost like I forgot that I was even in pursuit of that because I grew so far past it.
Yeah.
So progress goals. Clean on that?
Yep.
Yeah. Any questions?
So pursuit.
Yeah. Pursuit.
Progress.
Progress. And then process, because there's things that you got to do daily. Right. So this could be attitude stuff, like how you're showing up as a teammate or a leader, being vocal, as a mental coach, my athletes, I encourage them to do certain mental skills work every day, whether it be box breathing or attention control or awareness type exercises or journaling prompts or whatever that might be. And so, like, are you doing those things? Because yes, it's measurable. You did or you didn't do it, but it's not really, you don't really feel the progress in it. So therefore it's process. So it's the daily journaling. Maybe it's the sleep hygiene or nutrition. It's maybe it's learning something new, studying something. All those are just process. They're the things that you're doing daily.
Yeah.
You're doing daily. You're going out and getting in nature. All those types of components. So to make a list, what I recommend personally, in my own professional opinion, and what I've experienced as somebody who is intentionally, constantly setting goals, is 3 micro goals, 3 process goals, and then you post them. And then one of the nuances for posting them is we're just interesting as human beings. We just tend to forget. Like I write down goals that I think are so meaningful to my, right. And if I put them on my computer, on a document, on a Google Drive or whatever, I have to go back and look, and a few weeks later I go, what was that called again?
We naturally forget because our brain wants to just conserve energy. And
So yeah.
Doing new things takes a lot of energy.
Being in the unknown takes energy. Growth takes energy. So you post it somewhere where it's front of mind. It becomes part of your daily ritual. It becomes part of your daily routine. Part of your process goal is to revisit your goal and to track and see, where am I? What am I attacking today? How can I move the needle today? And if you struggle with motivation there, then it's time to talk about like your why and go to a deeper. And if you're not motivated, you just don't have a deep enough intrinsic burn to do the thing, because anything that is deeply felt, you will take action upon. That just means we just got to get more emotionally involved with
create a better connection to it, and even looking beyond whatever the current action is to like later down the road, what's the impact of that.
Yeah. So I just love that it's easy to remember. Pursuit, progress, process. It can get a little bit confusing for some people in the sense of like, oh, is that a progress or a process goal? And if it's something that you really aren't going to measure, that's not a couple weeks out, then you can just put it in the process. Like, sometimes there's a little bit of like, oh, is it one or the? It can be very closely related. When they're closely related, you're on it.
Yeah.
Right. When like you feel like the process feeds into the progress and the progress is part of your process, right? Then you know that you're in this very momentous type of field of awareness.
Yeah, I love that. And for the reminders, a little hack would be to put them as your screensaver on your phone. Because how many times a day, like, are you, picking it up, whatever, and seeing that if there were words there or even some images, like a little vision board of sorts with your, some things related to your goal. That could be really powerful too. I've had a lot of clients like post them up, Post-it notes, put them on their mirror, that type of thing.
Yeah, mirror by your door of your office.
Yeah.
That's where I like mine right here, where when I'm sitting, I can see it. It's right there. It says micro goals and checklists. I can see it. It's right there next to my TV screen, my computer screen. And then, man, it's sure helpful to tell people.
Yeah. What is the stat if you tell someone about your goal?
Accountability and just speaking life into it.
What's the stat? How much more likely are you?
I knew that stat at some point. I have no idea. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I know it goes up exponentially. Yeah, it's huge when you have that accountability. So many times it's just power in, with our clients, like having them checking in, letting us know, like, hey,
I mean, those type of numbers are cool to try to find. I don't know who actually is making those types of
right. Where is it coming from?
Where is it coming from? I think it's just ideas, but I would say that half of the value, at least, if not more, is the power of your spoken word, speaking things into existence. A lot of times you caught me in one of these just the other day where I was speaking something and you're like, that's not going to happen this year. I said, I know. I'm talking about as if it's already 2027.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking a goal that I have for 2027 because I know that the goal that we had for 2026, we're already going to hit. So I'm already living in the words I'm speaking out loud about a certain, in this case, it was a business goal. And you kind of looked at me cross-eyed and I'm like, that's 2027. She's like,
yeah. Because I know where the numbers are tracking like currently. So I'm like, yeah, that's even more than what I'm projecting.
It's 25% more.
Yeah. But I love that. So there's a lot of power in speaking it out and affirming it. And I think there's also some social accountability too. Nobody wants to tell somebody a goal that they're working towards and then have that person come back around and say like, how's that going?
Yeah.
Like, I quit.
I can't have this conversation without talking about one of my favorite aspects of neuroscience that I learned from Stephanie Fay was all of this work of setting the goals, of posting it, of revisiting it, of thinking about them, the why, all that component, like visualizing the version of yourself that becomes it, journaling about that process and the impact and the experience of that. And maybe we could go down, do a podcast about that. But it's all to create what's called, and this is what fascinates me. This is why when I love the science, when I learn the science behind this stuff, it's like, oh no, I get it. But like, no, you're like, oh no. Like, I get it. It's a whole different ballgame. It creates what's called attention probability. Okay, so what's attention probability? That means there's a higher probability that if I do all this internal work, more probably than just writing down my goals, but I visualize and I do all the things that we've talked about or that we teach, it's going to create a higher probability of me unconsciously choosing the action that leads towards that goal. Mm-hmm. This is something that I, want people to understand that it's, and I even had this idea as a podcast idea at some point. I was going to ask if you want to record this idea. We don't need more discipline. We just need to be willing to train our mind, to live a future present reality of knowing where we're going, who we're becoming, the experience we're having, the impact that's making, whether it is to your client wanting to get in, what was it, school, master's degree?
It's just getting scholarships.
For her, was it for a master's or what is it for?
Nursing.
Yeah. So, like the cool thing about that, and I always relate it back to my book. When I was writing my book, I was learning this science about like goal orientation, I call it, and goal achievement. was I realized if I do enough of that, like end result outcome, this is who I've become, this is what I've let go of, this is the confidence that me reaching that goal of writing the book has created, this is what that book feels like in my hand, this is the impact that book is making, this is what people are saying to me, this is the social proof, this is the social impact of achieving that goal. All of that is more like intrinsic stuff, right? Which creates this energetic pull that actually primes your attention to, in a moment, and this is how it shows up relatively, in a moment, let's say on a Saturday afternoon in the middle of the winter at 2:00 in the afternoon and the weather's crappy outside and there's nothing going on, you might, or in the fall, let's say, right? And it's like, oh, there's a college football game on, right? Which that'd be fun to watch. Or I could sit down with my journal and I could write a few notes and I could, work on some mental models or things that I want to put in my book. And if you do the internal work consistently over a period of time with some earnestness and really get emotionally involved with it, what will happen is you'll be more probable to choose the action that will lead to that goal, which means you will sit down and journal instead of turning on the TV. And you won't have to have the willpower to make that choice. You won't have to motivate yourself to make that choice. You won't have to fight with yourself. You will actually unconsciously want to go into your office or wherever the place is.
Yeah. Or if you're exercising or something like that, it's like, okay, well, hey, maybe I'll go work out.
Whatever the goal is. I use the book as the idea, but like whatever the goal is, if you know that piece well enough and you've involved yourself with it, emotionally and repetition over time, you're training your mind to just go do it. It's just going to happen. And like that to me is this idea of like effortless ease that is so much fun to think about. So do I need to be disciplined and grind and right? Well, there's some aspect to that maybe, but the more that I explore the power of this type of conversation of learning how to like really truly goal set, really truly understand what we're pursuing, understand how we're to progress towards it, so then the dopamine gets released and the mind starts to create the images and I start to get in touch with the version of myself I'm becoming because of the pursuit of this goal, and I stick with the process aspect of it, the daily actions that help me to stay in momentum towards it, that it doesn't take discipline. It becomes who you are, and you achieve the goal, and you're like, right? And it has a level of ease to it. So that's my like little tail end story and science a little bit to like motivate people to go like, it's not about discipline. Like writing down your goals is about you creating something in your mind.
Yeah. And creating that probability that when you see that the weather isn't great, it's funny that you said that because this actually came up in the conversation earlier today about the goal setting. Like, hey, the weather hasn't been great. Perfect time to sit down and do these applications. Perfect time to sit down and work on the book, whatever it is. You start to see whatever you're having as your abundance, because you can see like, yeah, no matter what's going on, I'm making progress. I'm working towards these things.
Yeah, another really relative example of attention probability towards a goal to me was whenever I have a little bit stronger of an idea of a fitness goal or right those type of things, like I go into the fridge and we have pretty healthy food, but like if I have a choice of this food or that food, I tend to lean towards the carrots and the broccoli and some hummus rather than whatever the other option would be. And again, that's not a willpower thing. You're creating your own internal will to like just make the choice that's more in alignment with what you're pursuing.
It's very much, and we'll have to get into this on another episode. It's actually when we can set a goal to change our self-concept, then the way that we're seeing you're seeing yourself as someone who makes healthy choices. And so that paradigm shift creates an attention probability towards you making those choices and becoming that version of yourself.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the human experience, how we get to explore that and create that. We get to choose it. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So we'd
Any
love
final
to,
thoughts?
I just want to say, we'd love to hear from you. There's a link in the show notes that you can send us a text message. If you have a goal that you're working towards and you would like to tell us about it, we would love to hear that.
Or you want to be coached on the 3 Ps,
Yes.
a pursuit. We would love for somebody to come on, be like, tell us what your goal is, and we'll coach you.
That's
That would
actually an
be fun.
idea that we had the other day. We were talking about that. Wouldn't it be fun to coach somebody
If
live?
somebody raised their hand, we got to
get back to them.
I'm going to see him tomorrow. I'll talk to him.
Yeah. And if you have just a general question that you want to have us address anonymously here on the podcast, leave us your topic and your question, and we'd be happy to do an episode on it. So Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you for your time.